Hey, 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 I am Brianna Harmon, and this is the Millennial Mommies Club, an original podcast dedicated to all of the millennial mommies out there killing the game. Whether you are single, married, or expecting, this is the place to be during your 15 minutes of downtime. Welcome to the Millennial Mommies Club.
I'm a fun mom.
I am a patient mom.
I am a conscious mom.
I'm a creative mom.
I'm a millennial mom.
What's up, mamas, and welcome back to the Millennial Mommies Club. You guys, first of all, went crazy last week with that daddy episode, so I am loving that energy. And let's make sure we bring it back again this week, because who I have with me today, my sister, my friend, looking fly as always. This beautiful woman right here is the milk behind Milk and Sizz. Executive producer, multi-genre songwriter, curator, wife, mom, and the list goes on. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You know I had to get a little jazzy with it.
I love it in here.
No, so welcome to the Millennial Mommies Club. And before we even get into your mom journey, let's just talk about where you are now and your career and everything that you're doing, because I want to give you a little shine there first.
I recently became an author, so that's really where my journey is kind of like starting. So it started with the birth of our daughter. So with her birth came like this thrust into children's music. So when you have the blessing of being able to kind of write any style of music, I'm just like, I'm listening to all these songs and I'm like, I don't hear anything I want to like play on a repeat, and they want to hear everything on repeat.
And Baby Shark is
listen, band. It's a band song, not because it's the worst thing I've ever heard, but simply because it's trance. Yeah. I'm like, where are we learning? What are we doing? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to get involved in that way, especially from an education space. So thrust into children's music, and then really just kind of built like a 360 model for the Magic Jones, which is the Grammy-nominated group that we got nominated
Don't
this
just
year.
Don't just say it like it was just light like that. They're Grammy-nominated.
Yes, and it was amazing. It's like, you get the nomination and you're just like, wait, what? You're like,
what just happened?
What just happened? I mean, it's been a while since we've been nominated, so it was great to be in a space to do that again.
Yeah.
So now with that project, their first single off of the album that we had created, I wrote a book called Wind Me Up for that. So that kind of moved me into authorship.
Yes, but I love authorship because I'm an author. Thank you. The same passion that you felt with wanting to be in this space for children is where I was when I decided to create my book for my daughters. And your book just takes you to a whole different world. I have it, y'all. So if you need to go get it, because I have it and my daughters love it. But the fact that you're just in this place of like wonder and trying to keep up and find your own lane and avenue. That's one thing that I loved about your book when I read it to my girls, and now they just can't put it down themselves.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. We in creating it with the group, basically, so I had originally wrote this song, and we set the scene for this illustration in this space of, this is the time that the Magic Jones meets the music box, which is Milk and Sizz. Mm-hmm. So the two fairies, which is all about their journey and their stories, they named it after their grandmothers. We wanted to tell the story from the perspective of the music box is kind of like calling out, how relationships and collaborations and all those things get kind of like, sometimes they're difficult.
Yeah.
Right? So this is kind of like that first intro into, this is home for you. This can be home for you. This can be a space that's safe for you. Mm-hmm. A lot of our songs kind of do that, to basically creating space for kids to be able to talk freely, be able to open up.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to kind of like continuing that.
Yeah. Now, talking a little bit more on the educational space, you homeschool your daughter, McKenna. So you're a wife, but also a mom who is putting and devoting a lot of time into homeschooling. Now, I'm about to put my daughters in that same curriculum because McKenna is 4 and she is reading, writing, creating beats, everything at this age. Can we talk about the power of just investing our time in our kids?
Well, I've always felt like more of a mentor. A lot of artists that we've ever worked with in our careers kind of call me like Mama Milk before I even had a child, which used to be like super annoying at first because you don't understand like, where y'all getting this from? But there's a nurturing that I guess was inherent in me even before I even wanted children, right? So that was a journey for me as well. If you would have met me 20 years ago, you would have never thought I would have had a child. Wow. So that's what throws people off, because my friends they're like, wait, what? And then you're just so involved. And I said, well, the point is that I didn't want to add a child to a very busy lifestyle and just make her an accessory. So my goal was always to be as invested, to be there. So I wanted to make sure there was time for that.
Yeah.
And building her curriculum kind of just came because, with the pandemic and children not actually going to school, most schools in Georgia, I'm originally from Jersey, so most schools in Georgia weren't even going through the process of having her, because of her age and when her birthday is, weren't used to having children in that space. They're like, oh no, we're not, she's too young.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but she's doing kindergarten stuff already.
Right.
And she's reading and she's potty trained and all the things that you're thinking would be the headache to the teacher. And I'm like, so you want me to not teach an inquisitive child and give her more information? And really, because they're such sponges, you just keep giving them information, right? I tell people, listen, my degree is in communications, so I can communicate. I did not know or sign up to be a teacher. However, I will not allow her to not receive information. So building the curriculum just came from a space of wanting her to have that structure. So she's continued to elevate, and I wasn't just teaching her from I had to find the right space to say, okay, this is step one, this will be step two, this will be step three. How do you grow it? How do you scale it? So it's all beta for me. It's just all testing.
Well, like I say, the beta has been proven to work because she is phenomenally smart, and a beautiful, well-mannered child. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the motherhood journey and how that started for you. Because when we think about your motherhood journey, like you said, you didn't think you were going to have kids. And I know a lot of women, we're in that space sometimes where we don't want them, or we say, I'll never have kids. And then when we have them, it's like that culture shock in a sense, uh-oh, what am I going to do? Right. So how did that journey feel for you or begin?
So right off the bat, as far as I can remember, I was not interested in having children. Everyone knew it. My bonus mom would always say, well, what if your mom and your dad didn't want you? What would you do? And I was like, I wouldn't be here. That would be what I would say all the time. Then I wouldn't be here. So then, so thank you for that. But I wasn't particularly interested. And then as I become busier, and then as things started happening, we were married 5 years before we even, we had taking all of your family, out to Cabo and just enjoying this wonderful renewal, and everybody's toasting and living their best life. And every speech sounded exactly like the speech that was at your wedding. Yeah. Everybody's and we just can't wait.
When are you gonna have kids?
We just can't wait for y'all to have kids. And when y'all have kids, it's just gonna be so great. And you're just we love, and we love this, and this is great. And, learning your partner, going through the whole process, that's really been our journey. And then our heart just burst, and we were just okay. And honestly, I always call her God's baby. That's what I always say. I said, God gave me her because God was sit down. You need to have a baby now. Yeah. Because we had gone out of the country. We travel a lot. So we had gone out of the country, and it's as soon as we came back in 2017, we found out not too long after that we were expecting. And we were man, because I'd have waited. I kept pushing it. Every year.
Did he want kids?
Yeah. He wanted kids, but it wasn't for us, we were set. And that's really about the yoking. We were both set on whatever was God's plan, let's just do that. Yeah. Versus going through this whole process. And sometimes the journey to motherhood for other women is a lot harder. Yeah. Right? It's a very hard process. And that's also why I became sensitive over time and not being as adamant of saying nah, I don't want kids. I'm never gonna have kids, right? Because just thinking about how someone suffer in that space, and you're just it just seems so cavalier. No, I don't want to do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's
some women are dying for that
really
opportunity.
Literally, right? So you just kind of you just get changed a little bit. You have one too many conversations. You find, women in that space, and you're just man, obviously we would be blessed by a child. Let's see what happens. And I kept pushing it, and then finally, God was all right, well, if you want to wait, I'm done waiting. I'm 2017, here you go.
So you said kept pushing. Were you not wanting to have sex? No, this is a little personal, but were you not wanting to have sex?
No, I just was all about the not finishing the process.
Okay.
Like, oh yes, practice. Let's practice.
Yeah.
But like,
get out of there.
yeah, come on. Like, wait, I thought about it. I don't want to do this today. Yeah, I thought about it. No. Never mind.
Did he ever have a moment where he was like, bro, why? Like, stop. Like, let me just, he was okay and understanding in that point.
He's amazing that way. Like, he's like, all right. He's like, cool. Because you know what? It's just, again, it's just a space that we were in. It wasn't like, there was no pressure, there was no rush. That's also that too, right? Like, if you don't have the right space and person, like you may really, really want a child, they may not really, really want a child.
Yeah.
You may not want a child, they may really, like that space is so hard. And I watch a lot of couples suffer in that space of not, one wants, one doesn't. So we kind of just stayed, our commitment during our time of, premarital counseling and all that was to stay in growth together, right? Like everybody's gonna grow. We all evolve. But if you grow together, then you're not as like, who are you?
Yeah.
I don't know you anymore.
Yeah.
So knowing each other, staying committed, and even as parents, like that part is still very difficult because you may parent one way, they may parent another way, and you're like, hey, I would really like us to not talk like that.
Well, that's hilarious because I learned that last week from a father, actually. A father told me that same similar concept. And at first it was like, what do you mean we grow and there's somebody new? But he stated each time, as long as you're willing to kind of revisit that new person, and
revisit. It's like that's why people say date each other. Like all these overarching themes are kind of saying the same thing, but it's not deep. It's like really, really surface. It's like, what do you mean date each other? It's like date each other. Like
that was me.
Dates?
I said the same thing. I said, so we're gonna go on a date night? Is that what you mean by like date each other? And he was like, no. It's like, why? What do you mean by continue to date each other? But I'm also not married. That's why I'm single right now, but I don't know. So we'll revisit that another time. But really quick, mamas, we're gonna take a quick break. And when we get back, we're gonna finish talking about your motherhood journey and kind of get a little more personal and some of the ups and the downs because this is a busy woman. So we know it's not always just peaches and cream. So we'll be right back right after this. You guys are watching the Millennial Mommies Club on Ebony covering Black America Podcast Network.
You are listening to the Ebony covering Black America Podcast Network.
Welcome back, mamas, to the Millennial Mommies Club. Again, you know we have the one, the only Milk from Milk and Sizz in the building with us today. And you know what time it is after our break. We're getting into the cookie jar. So what did you guys put in here this week that Miss Milk is going to answer for us?
This one looks like the juiciest.
That's the juiciest? All right, let's see.
What does it say? How do you balance being a wife, mother, and having a successful career?
Ooh, I'll put it back in here.
How do I balance? I'm actually kind of working on that. You know, I think that for so long I have just driven myself into the ground. Like, it's like, or what I talk about in therapy often is the
gotta
fact,
have it.
Man, listen, I always tell people mental health. Like that's really how I strike the balance, is learning how not to be as rigid, right? Like sometimes you build things, you get very into the structure of things, and then, I needed to allow space for that fluid thing, like basically like, or a thought can pop into my head and I don't have to execute it, right? It's like, I call them balloons. So it's like, you know what? This would be great if I collaborate with this person, or I do this, or I see someone, that need to jump in and try to make sure you're keeping your career going.
Yeah.
Giving space for each thing is really how I've been learning to balance. That's my new, work.
Yeah.
It's the new work that I've been doing to try to say, okay, this is this in its proper time, this in its proper time, this in its proper time. And the things that are natural and organic and don't feel rushed, that's where I'm working towards now.
Yeah.
So I try to create balance as much and as often as I can, and then taking a lot of, mental space. Say, okay, this is the days I have my therapy, these are the days I'm going to swim, these are the days I'm going to do this, because the career is going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. My family is going to be there. what am I doing for me?
Yeah.
So balance there is important.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. This is a part of the joy. McKenna is in the building with us, everyone. And that is work-life balance as a mom. Sometimes we may have to bring our kids with us.
Man.
Sometimes they have to be a part of the success, but that is okay. That's the lovely piece about our journey. Now, and she's found a friend in here, so it's okay. But with that... But it's work-life balance, right? And again, you just stated you're figuring it out. So it comes with that. And you're also devoting a lot of time to her. You're devoting a lot of time to developing her, but also yourself. Now, therapy, you said a little bit about that. How important do you think that is for a mother going through this motherhood journey?
I mean, I don't think that I don't think it's the right thing to use just church. Or just therapy. I believe there is a combination. And for me, I was able to find and strike balance with the right therapist. I think sometimes people get turned off by therapy because they're not meeting the right person. But every relationship has to be that yoke, no matter what. Every relationship, there's a reason why some friends you're a little bit closer to and other friends you're not. There's a reason why some therapists will turn you off completely to therapy. But you got to keep going. You got to put your mental health as the priority. And if you put it as the priority, then you remember, okay, I don't like you, or I don't, and I can speak up and I can advocate for myself. I don't like the way that you said that. Can we revisit that? Can we do that? I think that's really where I kind of live. I kind of live in that in between where it's just like I want balance. And so if that's where I'm always trying to get back to center, I had to get the right therapist to keep me there because I have had a few. I had some before I had McKenna. And then after I had her, I didn't have a therapist for a while. And then I was like, I need a therapist. Because I was so adamant. Like, very, let's say headstrong. Because sometimes people confuse confidence and headstrong. It's like, no, I just know what I want. And so I know what I also don't want. So sometimes people kind of confuse that and say, oh, you're so confident. And I'm just like, I struggle lots of times with different things. And I'm not, it's not a perfect science, but you keep tinkering and keep tinkering and keep tinkering. And then you're like, oh, I finally found the right calibration, the right frequency, the right variations of things. Like, okay, I need to swim on this day. I need to do this at this time. I need to do this. And if I do that consistently and give myself grace, then maybe.
That's the biggest word I'd love to tell moms in this journey, grace. Because we go through these changes, right? She might not be latching today. I had this perfect plan, or I want an at-home delivery, or I don't want to get a C-section. I want to go vaginal. I don't want a epidural. But a lot of the times, it just may not work that way. So I'm going to transition to your actual pregnancy and delivery. What that gave an emotion right there. What was that like? Because I had a C-section, then went for a VBAC right after. So for me, I was like, my family's like, girl, you can't do that. You have to have another C-section. So I was terrified. But what was your delivery process like? How'd you recover?
I was strongly against the C-section. Like they kept telling me, I remember one time, first of all, having the right practitioner, therapy, doctor, all of it. People in your corner at every turn. I had a horrible labor and delivery. Beautiful pregnancy. I loved my pregnancy. It was like, dang, I would love to do this again. I thought this was going to be great. After labor and delivery, I was like, as you see, I have one. That is it for me right now. Everybody's like, oh, are you going to do it again? I was just like, I don't know. It was so traumatic. It was so traumatic, not listening to doctors. I had a really good nurse, and then I had two good nurses because one transitioned me to another really, really good nurse. But it's like as soon as I arrived at the hospital, they put the thing around your belly, and the doctor came in to check me, and when she laid me down, that was actually the OB that I always would see, but at Emory, they kind of rotate. You don't know who's going to be your doctor on the day of, which is very, very not okay. It's just not okay. I get
was the same way.
I get it, but it's not okay. So the doctor that I normally saw, she was actually there, and I was hoping that she would be able to deliver McKenna, but she wasn't. So she just laid me down on the table. As soon as she laid me down, a nurse comes in, like I guess the head nurse at the time, very aggressive, and she's like, "We can't hear the baby's heartbeat." Da-da-da-da. And I was just like, "Is this how this is like? No, start how you want to finish. Like this is how it started, and it finished the same way."
Wow.
It was like aggressive energy. Residents coming in the room telling me that first of all, I have several friends that are doctors. So it's like, what program are you in? They're like, oh, I'm in this program. It's like, well, how long do you have to finish? How long have you been in residency? I'm like, so you just got here. So you don't even know if you want to choose obstetrics. Like, bye. Like, get out. Like,
Yeah.
they came and started reading me. Oh, well, if you get a C-section, you basically, like, it'll be almost like you're in and out of the hospital. I'm like, how? It's surgery. You cut me open. How are you going to tell me that it's okay? Right? And they're like, well, if you have, I know you're pushing for this natural, but it's like, you read all the fine print. It's like, this, and could equal death. And it's like,
and they leave that at the end to just be like, just get this C-section. That's what we want you to have.
And so what I kept telling them is I had gone through all these different these practices, these yoga practices, these different mantras, birthing classes, things like that, to prepare my body to go through something that women have been doing many, many moons. And they were just like, okay, yeah, sure, you need to get a C-section. And why? So at one point I got up and I told them, I said, they were like, oh, you haven't, you're not, dilating anymore. So we're going to have to give you
epidural?
No, Pitocin.
Oh, Pitocin. Okay, to speed you up.
And one of my friends told me, that was the thing she literally told me. She was like, hey, whatever you do, don't let them give you Pitocin.
Yep.
And I was like, really? And she's like, do not let them give you Pitocin. And I said, okay. So when they said it, I was like, no, I'm going to wait it out. And so it's like, but I said that when I checked in. Because I was like 5 centimeters when I checked in. And I had been dilating like the whole month of October before I got there. So I started at 1, and then by the time I got to them many weeks later, I was at 5. So they're like, I was like, I can go home. They're like, no, don't go home. And I'm like, well, what's the big deal? Like, okay, if I'm not ready, then let me come back. They're like, no. So then they kept pressuring me. Every couple hours, a new resident would come in. Then they send, like, I guess the main resident, because I tell people all the time, again, headstrong. So you want to talk? Yeah. We can talk. But if you want to get aggressive, we can do that too. So,
about both of them.
About both those lives, right? I'm like, okay, calm. Are we doing calm energy right now, or are we doing hype up energy?
Yeah.
So they would come in, and I told them, I said, please don't come back. And then Sizz was also in there, because what I realized is one of my friends that did recommend me to Emory, she had the same problem. They came in last minute, told her they couldn't hear the baby's heartbeat. They had to rush and do a C-section. And so she had to be back afterwards as well for the second one, because I told her, I said, we just kept kicking them out.
Yeah.
When they came back, they was like, oh, well, we can't do this, or we could do this, whatever. And I was like,
so did you end up having the C-section? No, okay.
No, we just kept forcing them out. But I created this spa-like environment. Again, they were doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
They said, what are your favorite places when you were doing all these classes? And so, again, I did these classes at Emory. So it's like the disconnection.
Yeah.
The disconnection
between
departments. Man, listen.
That's what it was.
Listen. They started flicking on lights. I was zen when I was complete.
Yeah.
Right? I had gone through the process. I was zen. They were like, okay, she's ready. Come in. Do this. They flicking on lights like I'm having a C-section the entire time. I was like, wow.
But then that's what happens when what they do is kind of force us into this. Our blood pressure is now rising. Now we're stressed. Now we're upset.
Oh, we're stressing the baby.
Yeah, now we're stressing the baby. So now you have to get a C-section. And it's like, you're stressing me, which is making me stress my child if you just let me do it the way I want to do it and how I planned it. But you made it.
Listen,
and
I survived.
Thank God.
I didn't let you kill me, because that's a thing.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm grateful because I stuck to my guns, and so I was able to have some, basically be able to tell that journey from a different perspective, because I had so many friends that kept getting forced into C-sections because of that push. And then one of my friends and I did an analysis side by side of a labor and delivery that was a C-section versus a labor and delivery that was all natural, that didn't have any, medication or anything like that. And it's like, oh, well, they're charging you like $120.
That's why.
They gave me, what's that stuff called? Percocets. They gave me Percocets after I delivered.
For what?
That's what I'm saying. It's like all the way, when I'm leaving the hospital with her, I was only in there 48 hours.
Yeah.
But you would think, you thought I was in there for a week, and you would think that I had a C-section.
A C-section,
That's how they treated the
I was going to say, because they gave me
experience.
Percocets because I had a C-section, but I obviously did not take them.
When she came back around with the thing, I said, what's that? This was like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
After that. I was like, what is that? And she's like, oh, this is your ibuprofen and your Percocet. I said, you gave me this before? I said, did I see you, or did somebody give me this before?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I'm looking in your chart they gave you. I said, don't give me that.
Yeah.
I said, don't give me another one of those. I said, I don't need it. I was like, what is this, 800? She's like, yeah. I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, give me that and then let's move on. I was like, I don't understand why you're...
Money.
Yeah.
And money and our color. That's really it.
Man, fought with the pediatrician. Like, the person wouldn't let McKenna out. So she's losing too much weight because I wanted to nurse.
Yeah.
They in there talking about please don't kill the baby by trying to nurse.
I got this.
I was talking to the doctors here about nursing.
Yeah.
How did we get...
Tonight, yeah. Trust me, the motherhood experience.
It's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing because it's very intense.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed. Right? It traumatized me. It made me not want to do it again.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to.
So I want to kind of wrap up and talk about just any advice that you would give to these moms right now, whether they are trying to deliver, they are pregnant currently, they're in the process of just now delivering, and now I'm into this new mom space. What advice would you give those moms?
If you are just delivering and you have suffered a traumatic experience during your labor and delivery, immediately seek therapy. Immediately. Like, it enhances your postpartum depression, especially because we don't actually acknowledge it as postpartum depression, because if you jump in and you automatically throw on your superhero cape, and you're like, especially if you're working and you're busy and you're this and you had to fight the whole time, you were in the hospital.
Like a ton of bricks.
When it all comes down and it's like all the silence, like I kept moving people out. Like even that experience of kicking all those people out of my room constantly. When I had my daughter, I was very shut off from other people. I didn't let anybody see her for like 30 days. Or 90 days, I think. But I'm saying seek help because you don't know that you're suffering because you're not handling it. It doesn't look like what suffering may look like to you, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody is just like, oh, you're just high functioning. And it's like high functioning is not like, let's remove that. Like, so, and if you had a beautiful experience and you're like trying to do it again, if you don't want, my other advice, one of my friends said, so I'll say it loud because it's a good thing. One of my friends said, if you don't want Irish twins or anything like that.
Close your legs.
They was like, everything is fertile. They try to tell you at the hospital. He said that thing is fertile.
That was my experience.
Don't go back in.
Went right back in like a
what
fool.
It feels like. Don't go back in.
Right back in. I was like, yikes. And
you're like, what do you mean I'm pregnant again?
Right. I'm going for my just normal checkup and they're like, we see a baby. And I'm like, we see a what? No. And I remember I called him and I was like, so I called their dad. I was like, so checkup went good. And he was like, all right, cool. Like, all right, see you later. And I'm like, but wait, we got another baby in here. That's amazing how it went, right? We got another baby. He was just like, bro, I'm not gonna play with you. I'm not playing. Came home with the whole sonogram, like, here you go. Happy birthday. Like, you did it. You did it.
So those are my two like rules is like, advocate for yourself in the hospital, advocate for yourself after you leave. And then if you're not trying to have kids back to back, so to further increase your postpartum, make sure that you just don't.
Yeah.
You just give it the time that it needs
Close
to heal.
your legs and just stay still.
Let your body heal.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Milk,
you
for
for
joining us. Can you please just let them know where they can find you, follow you, support anything you have going?
Of course. I'm Milk from Milk and Sizz, and you can find me at Milk and Sizz, which is MILK, the letter N, SIZZ. And that's on all different platforms.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And mamas, we will see you next week for another episode of the Millennial Mommies Club on Ebony, covering Black America Podcast Network.